Moza Racing's introduction of the MTP Throttle Panel is a very welcome development to their already rapidly growing range of flight sim peripherals, and it may well form that missing piece to your HOTAS setup that you've been looking for a while. It can connect directly to your PC, of course. It can also connect directly to their AB9 force feedback base as well as their upcoming force feedback yoke. The outstanding element for this unit for me overall is one of quality, varying from the aluminium alloy grip down to controllable and adjustable detent positioning, friction control, LED lighting, and of course the vibration effect that you're going to get as you push that throttle forward. As far as I'm concerned overall, I think that the MTP Throttle Panel is setting a new standard, and as such it's already earned a place on my H3 motion platform. Welcome back to the SimHanger. My name's Mark. Thank you very much for watching, and let me get started by saying Moza Racing kindly provided the product to the channel for review purposes. The quality of the packaging matches the quality of the product. This video was made some time before the official release of the product, so prices shown above are indicative only. Check their website for confirmation. The product comes with the necessary M6 bolts to allow for standard mounting. There are two options for connecting, USB-A to USB-B, but also an RJ connector if you opt to connect to something like the AB9 force feedback base, saving yourself a USB port. Comparatively, this is a fairly large unit, and it is relatively heavy, with an aluminium alloy grip, with the rest of the body being made from various composite materials. The weight and size indicates it's going to sit fairly stably on your desktop and allows for comfortable spacing between the dials and switches. The metal switches have a very positive click to them, and the dials the notched haptic feedback. The throttle itself can operate as a single throttle or as two separate ones. Now on it you'll find a combination of axes, hat switches, and an ample supply of buttons. One aspect that I do like is that each of the axes' friction can be adjusted individually by simply turning these screws here, tool included. If connecting to another Moza device, you can connect it through the transit cable, otherwise use the standard USB. Underneath the unit are two rubber pads to provide friction if on a very smooth surface, and a fairly wide and varied selection of mounting options. The movement of the throttle itself has a nice positive feel to it, as well as the finger lifts at the front to lift it over the detents. The positioning of the detents are fully adjustable, and if you don't like them, well, they can also be removed. All the buttons, dials and switches, of course, can be individually configured to suit your personal preference. At this time, there's no default configuration in Microsoft Flight Simulator. As an additional purchase, there are a number of different mounting options available, including a desktop clamp, but we're going to take a look at the mounting plate, which Moza calls the flight support plate. This is an optional additional purchase. The cost will be $25, but please check their pricing on their website, as all prices shown in this video are subject to confirmation. With the plate comes a wide variety of different mounting options, including plastic suction cups to various lengths bolts and washers to accommodate mounting the throttle quadrant to the plate. Also importantly, please note that this plate is also compatible with the AB9 force feedback base. As per all Moza peripherals, it's supported by Moza cockpit software. It's perfectly usable as a standalone item, but I'm using it in conjunction with Moza's force feedback AB9 base and flight stick. They make the perfect pair. For Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and 24, there's no pre-made profiles, but every switch, dial, button and rotary is configurable. LED lighting is adjustable, and here also should be a vibration option, but that is yet to be implemented in a future software update. Has two throttle axes and a number of other axes, and they can be calibrated here. Although I found I didn't need to do anything, they were perfectly calibrated from the get-go. This is also the perfect place for you to test every switch and dial and make sure they're working as intended. Let's jump into Sim and have a look at the throttle quadrant in action. Using the aforementioned mounting plate, I have mounted it on my DOF H3 motion simulator, just preparing for departure, parking brake off, As is the case with most throttle quadrants, it can be used either as a single or dual engine. Today for a change I'm in the A10 Warthog, one of the default aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. As is the case with most throttle quadrants, it can operate either as a single or as a dual engine, and what I particularly like is the locking mechanism to join the two throttles together. So often they're fairly loose and have a tendency to separate. That's not going to be an issue with the MTP Throttle Quadrant from Moza. Let's now get up in the air. It's quite a breezy day today, quite a lot of wind, blowing from right to left. Whoa, I can feel that. The flight stick and the AB9 is alive in my hands. In my personal opinion, well, force feedback certainly is a game changer. I've configured one of the switches on the throttle quadrant for gear. Now just checking that my flaps are fully retracted, which they are. And we're starting to climb out, heading away from Rio de Janeiro. I'm going to come back on the throttle, need to slow down a little bit. I've also configured the air brakes to the throttle quadrant. I'll now deploy those. There they go, that'll slow me down as I get ready to lose altitude and turn back towards the mainland. If you've ever had the problem of not enough buttons or switches or something of that nature, well, that's not going to be a problem with this throttle quadrant. Switches and dials are labelled ideally for military aircraft, but of course you can configure them to whatever you want them to be. Switches include left and right generator, flare, weapon arm, radar and in switch, probe, extend and retract, which I'm using for gear, APU, engine crank, various lighting, rudder trim and light control, plus a whole lot more. Now the aluminium housing of the actual main throttle controls themselves are designed for haptic feedback, but that is yet to be implemented, as I mentioned earlier. This will be coming in a future software update, and I imagine with a firmware update as well. LED light intensity can be changed as needed or turned off completely. It's up to your preference. Not only does the MTP Throttle Quadrant make a perfect companion for the AB9, but it's an excellent standalone item as well. And the single most outstanding feature for me is the quality, not just of the unit overall, but the buttons and switches. They're built to last. Now it is a fairly big unit, but I find that a positive rather than a negative for me, particularly as I often fly in VR. Selected buttons and switches are easy to locate, particularly on the grip, and ideal for use when in virtual reality. Moza are also offering an add-on to the throttle quadrant, which is the MTP panel. This is based loosely on the F-18 landing panel, multi-function device including landing gear, and I believe the price will be around $149 US or £149, slightly more in euros. Once again, visit the Moza website for further details. Also check the website for updated delivery details. As always, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found it useful and informative. Stay well, look after yourselves. I'll see you all again very soon, and ciao for now.